So when I was in college, most of my time was spent either learning animation or animating various tests. It's hard to communicate how much of my time was spent learning this particular skill, but I worked 3 hours a day at a deli, and literally the other 15 were spent either slaving over something I was animating or just binge watching tutorials. TLDR, at that particular moment in life, animation was something I put a lot of effort into. Anywhoosies, I remember around this time one of my sisters being upset about a conversation she had with one of my friends. I guess in this conversation, my sister had mentioned how much I like animation, and my friend responded, "What? No, he doesn't like it that much." This was first weird for my sister, because her and I are definitely close enough for her to know what I like and where I spend my time, but for her, she was like, "Who are you to know my brother more than me?" But for me, it hurt a little bit. It's not that big of a deal that one of my friends didn't know how much an interest of mine mattered to me. But in any relationship, you just assume that they know you, or in other words, assume that they know why you do what you do. But how could she know why animation was so important to me if she didn't even know that it was? Has anything like that ever happened to you? You ask yourself, how on earth could they have come to that understanding? If it's a big enough divide, your thoughts lead you to question if they even know you, or ever knew you. It crumbles that relationship, at least for that moment. Hits you with that empty feeling, if anyone even knows you. Well, hopefully like mine, it wasn't that big of a deal and your relationship persisted. But it leads us to the next idea that relationships hinge on: being understood.
So we've talked about how you can use trust to communicate to your audience how close two characters are. In that same vein, you can also use how much those two characters understand each other. Say you're writing a story and you want to introduce a divide between two characters. You can use an example like Adam discussed earlier, where two characters really misunderstand each other. Say, for instance, Kim assumes that Tyler's really into nerd culture, so she offers to go to San Diego Comic-Con with him. When she invites him, he's like, "Why would I ever want to do something like that?" In that moment, there's this divide between them on an interest level, but it goes deeper than that.
In the last video, I mentioned for Nick to feel comfortable revealing his backstory of being bullied, he needed 1, to trust Judy with that information, and 2, to trust that she would understand where he was coming from, his subtext. It's subtle, but poignant. Say Roberta from an impoverished home tells Stacy from a privileged home that she's hungry a lot. You think when Stacy says, "Oh my god, me too," they're talking about the same thing? The fact that Nick trusted Judy to understand that his decision to be a sly fox was a justified decision spoke volumes to the audience about their relationship. In contrast, at the beginning of the film, he would have never told her that, meaning the writers have communicated to us, the audience, that Nick and Judy's relationship is much closer now.
To better understand this, I feel I need to take a detour, because in context to culture, it's important for me to clarify my definitions. I'm purposely saying understanding each other's intentions. Notice that Nick doesn't tell Judy who he is, he tells her why he is.
It's a common belief that we're just a set of unchangeable attributes. I'm an introvert, it's just who I am. I like to draw, it's just who I am. I tell it like it is, it's just who I am. Is it? Are we just a set of default values that are set in stone and that's just who we are? Well, obviously all this build-up would be a little disappointing if the answer to that question was just, yeah, pretty much. So no, we're not.
If characters are based off people, and characters are defined by their actions and intentions, then we must be defined by our actions and intentions. Which is weird, right? Because that means who we are is left up to the perception of others. Again, I can only be characterized as kind if someone sees me doing something kind, but it's further nuanced by our intentions, which leads to greater characterization.
So let's unpack that. Say I give $1,000 to charity, a kind act, but John knows the only reason I gave that money to charity is so I could write it off of my taxes. That kind characterization is now nuanced, and John might not think that was very kind at all. Or a more extreme example. High school dance coming up, Beth isn't really one of the cool kids, we'll say, and I see she really wants to go. But no one is going to ask her, and she doesn't want to go alone. So I ask her to the dance. So altruistic. To everyone else, my actions and intentions are in line, so they describe me as sweet, thoughtful, whatever. But unbeknownst to them, Austin bet me $200 that I wouldn't take Beth to the dance. To everyone else, I'm this kind individual. But Austin knows why I did it. Who am I to him? What if my sister finds out? Who would I be to her? What if I feel bad and I apologize 2 weeks later? Who am I to Beth? What if through this interaction we actually hit it off and a great relationship blossoms? Who am I to Beth then? Who am I to Austin then? Who am I actually?
Who is Candace?
Does it matter whose definition is most correct? Is one more correct than the others? The point is, who we are is constantly changing based on our experiences and our perception of those experiences shaping us. And the people who characterize us are constantly changing as well.
I always question the notion plastered all over my adolescence, the notion to be yourself. Because that creates the idea that yourself is a definitive and justifiable thing. The standard example being someone who starts acting like a jerk to fit in with the cool kids. Sure, if you actually think being a jerk is wrong, then you live in that tension of morality and being cool. But what if being a jerk is your default? Then are you not being yourself? And we just say, hey, you do you, we'll just be over here avoiding you, guys, you're kind of a jerk. Or what if you do choose being a jerk over being uncool? Isn't that a motivation that defines who you are, at least for that moment, until maybe 3 years later when you realize the error of your ways and you need to change?
What's crazy is that we define ourselves by the labels and conclusions that we identify with every day, but complain about stories where the characters don't change. We crave character change. A movie where the world changes, but the character doesn't, is dumb. But if the world doesn't change a bit, but the character's worldview shifts completely, that story's amazing! Who we are is fluid and changes from moment to moment. It's never in this definitive state. Every day brings new conflicts, and who we are in that moment is defined by where we land between two things: our flaws and our strivings. Or, put it another way, who we tend to be and who we try to be. Jake is quick to anger, but he doesn't like blowing up at his friends. Hugo has to buy every hot new thing, but hates that money is always tight. Ingrid dominates conversations that focus on herself, but she feels lonely because she doesn't know anybody else.
Our flaws result from wherever you land on the nurture and nature thing. But our strivings will always be motivated. And this brings us full circle to this point. The closer someone is to us, the better they know why we are trying to be who we are trying to be. If I fall short of who I'm trying to be and am a complete jerk to some guy, to that guy I will always be a complete jerk. But if John, my close friend and compadre, witnessed the event, it wouldn't significantly impact our relationship. Because he understands that's not who I'm trying to be. I fell short of that. And because he understands that, he will extend grace, and our relationship will persist. And because he lovingly cares that I live up to who I want to be, he'll probably then say, hey, dude, you were kind of a jerk back there.
And that's the point. You can use that as a writer. You can indicate how close characters are by showing how much they understand each other's intentions. In Toy Story, we get a clear picture of how close Woody and Slinky are. When Woody pushes Buzz out the window, all the other toys abandon Woody, based on the apparent evidence. The writers didn't need to include the scene where Slinky rebuts, but they do so because it shows that Woody and Slinky are friends. It takes Woody wielding Buzz's dismembered arm for Slinky to realize that maybe Woody isn't who he's understood him to be. In Tangled, Rapunzel's world is completely shattered when she sees Flynn sailing away with the crown. But imagine if the film hadn't shown us, the audience, that he was actually tied up, and had played it off like he'd betrayed her. It would completely break who we understood Flynn to be up until that moment. And like Rapunzel, we'd feel betrayed, played, and we'd be in denial.
In The Iron Giant, to everyone else, Giant is this terrible, destructive monster, but Hogarth understands that's not who he's trying to be, and he desperately wants to convince everybody else of that. And because of that, we get a clear feeling of how close they are, and because we understand them to be so close, it kills us when Giant dies.
So use that. Show characters understanding each other's intentions to strengthen their relationship. Because the more we feel they care about each other, the more we care about both of them. It reminds me of our Frozen review. I never cared about Anna freezing because I never felt Elsa cared about Anna freezing. Because the movie never showed me that either understood why the other was, who the other was. Is, were. Should we do that one again?
Nah, we'll just keep that one. That was good.
Pretty decent.
Alright guys, well, thanks for watching. We always want to hear your comments more than anything else. So let us hear your beautiful voices.
Only slightly more than your likes and your subscribes.
I like those subscribes.
And your reposts.
Yeah.
Just the comments.
Also,
Here's what you can understand about me.
Okay.
I like it when I have positive feedback.
follow us on MySpace. That joke never gets old.
It never does. Archaic social media. We got one more of these left, then you'll probably never see us again.
Good chance.
But at least we tried.
We tried.
We came back with
Understand that our
at
intention
least 3
was
at
pure.
this point.
Or we just leave it at a cliffhanger at 3.
Right? You could not hear from us for months.
You never know. We might do that to you. See you next time.
Have a good one.